Hello, I want to take this opportunity to welcome you back. It has been great to see everyone this week. I look forward to our continued work this year in ensuring high levels of achievement for all of our students. And speaking of high levels of achievement, the purpose of this webinar is to update you on our math plans for this school year. Remember that last year, a team of grade 5 teachers and I met during the data retreat to examine our grade 5 data due to some dips in student performance that we had noticed over the past several years. We put together a plan, which we implemented last year, and I'm really proud to say congratulations to all of you. Our student achievement improved by 5 percentage points. Excellent job. Certainly, it's a different group of students from year to year. However, overall, most buildings saw growth in their math scores. Some buildings saw significant growth, and certainly I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Earl Elementary at 100%. Excellent job. That's our first 100% in grade 5. So as we said last summer, it can be done, and we did it. With that said, I'd like to provide you with information on what we saw overall in our math achievement, and then talk a little bit about what the plan is for this year, and I promise to be brief. I'm going to go through the anchors. I'm going to show you the trends over the past 4 years. I'm going to summarize the trends and then talk about what they mean. And then I'll discuss our plan for the year. Are you ready? In the anchors that fall under A1, A2, A3, you can see that for the most part, we had pretty good growth and achievement in those anchors. Specifically, in anchor A1.1, we increased from 2.9 to 3.1. That's the highest in 4 years. In our anchor A.2, we increased by a small amount, but again, the highest in 4 years. And in A.3, we decreased by a small amount, but there's really no significant difference. So what does this mean? Well, anchors A1 and A2 include topics like magnitudes of numbers, fractions, negative numbers, number theory, solving problems with basic operations, decimals, fractions, and whole numbers. So that's where we saw some of those increases, and that's where our scores are the highest in 4 years. The one that dipped slightly was A3, and that's the focus on calculations and estimations. So that's an area for us to strengthen. But while we strengthen that, we don't want to pull out those kinds of things in isolation. In other words, we don't want to do skill and drill in isolation. We want to continue to focus on calculations while we're also focusing on problem solving with basic operations. As we move on to the next set of anchors, these are the measurement anchors. Now, if you remember, measurement was the one area that needed to be our strongest area of focus because it's been our weakest, notoriously, over the past 4 years. And sometimes when you think about what measurement it assesses, it's not necessarily what you would think, and I'll show you what I mean in a few minutes. So when you look at where we were on measurement anchor B.1, we're pretty well stable compared to the past 4 years. But look at B.2. We had some significant growth there. So focusing in on this anchor and spiraling it all year long, which is what we did last year, has really paid off. And again, there's just some of the summaries. And that B2 anchor is definitely a wow. We increased from 2.74 to 3.38. So what does this mean? Again, the additional focus we put on teaching measurement skills paid off. And we want to increase our efforts in this area. So if you think about what our plan was, we taught measurement skills all throughout the year. One of the reasons that we knew we had to do that was when we looked at what was being measured in 4th grade, in comparison to what was being measured in 5th grade, the outcomes were significantly different. The expectations were significantly different. We went from just really strict measurement, inches, centimeters, those kinds of things in 4th grade, to having to do conversions in 5th grade. So we knew that we needed to give students more time to attain those skills. And then the other thing was we assessed more often. And again, research is very clear on that. The more that students have difficulty, the more often we need to assess so that we know where we are and we can monitor and adjust our instruction. As we look at geometry, again, you can see growth in some areas as well as a decline in some areas. C1, definitely a wow. We increased from 3.01 to 3.34, again, the highest in 4 years. But then on the flip side, C.2 decreased a little bit. So what does this mean? Again, we put more of a focus on our geometry skills last year, and it definitely paid off. We want to increase that effort. And then the other thing is, remember that some of the anchors in geometry also kind of overlap with anchors in measurement. For example, the geometry anchors have area and perimeter embedded in them, but so do the measurement anchors. So we just need to be aware that as we are working on our measurement skills, we are also tapping into geometry as well. When you look at the algebra anchors, again, you can see some real growth. Look at D.2. That is such a celebration. We are, again, the highest in 4 years. We increased from 3.48 on D.2 to 3.80. What does this mean? D.1 focuses on creating, extending, and analyzing patterns. So we're going to need to pay more attention to that area. D.2 is focusing on solving and representing expressions and number sentences. So whatever you are doing in this area, keep it up. And then finally, the last set of anchors are on data analysis. And this is a little perplexing. So E.1 is the focus on just the interpretation of charts, graphs, and tables, probably the easiest anchor out of the 3. But as you can see, we had a pretty significant decline in that area. So that needs to be somewhat of a focus for us this year. On E.2, however, we increased to 3.5, which is our highest in 4 years. Again, another wow. And then an E.3, we also increased. So that whole E.1 anchor is a little bit perplexing. So I'm not sure what that was about. And it could be perhaps that there was one problem and that measured that anchor and students got it wrong. So I'm not sure. Nevertheless, it's an area which we want to pay attention to. And again, there's the what does this mean, displaying and interpreting data. So here's the plan. Again, can't say this enough. Know your proficient skills. Know what it is that is being assessed. Follow the pacing guide. It's been aligned to the standards and the anchors, which really are our BISD proficient skills. So I can't, again, say enough times, know those anchors. I'm going to check in with you to see where you are with your pacing, and I will collect that information and send it to all grade 5 teachers. I will collect that information again in October, December, and February. And remember that the purpose of collecting this information is for you to self-assess. Here's where you are in comparison to your colleagues. This doesn't mean that, oh my gosh, if you're way off, you have to catch up and skip things. Again, it's that self-assessment for you to say, why am I where I am? Do I need to spend more time? Am I constantly behind? If I am constantly behind, why is that? So it's a way for you to, again, to be self-assessing and asking where you are in relationship to your colleagues across the district. Secondly, here are our focus areas. Again, we don't want to give up that measurement focus. We want to keep hammering that, again, because the skills that are assessed are so very different from what is assessed in 4th grade. The level of rigor is so much higher. So as you think about what measurement encompasses, we are looking at selecting the appropriate unit for measuring weight, capacity, length, perimeter, and area. Again, there's B.1.2, that solving problems using simple conversions. And that's really the big ticket because that is not part of the 4th grade anchors. And then B.1, this is where I was saying it kind of overlaps with geometry because you've got the perimeter and the area piece in there. So really hit these, spiral them throughout the year, start in the beginning of the year, put them into some of your morning work, put them into homework, and give regular practice on these skills. Second area of focus, statistics and probability, and that's the anchor that had dropped significantly, the E.1. Again, I'm not sure what that's about, but just make sure you're bringing it to students' attention and spiraling the practice of displaying and interpreting data. And this is also an area that you can pick up in science as well. So just remember to constantly focus in and target the interpretation of charts and graphs. And then the other 3 focus areas, the algebra and functions, again, creating, extending, and analyzing patterns. The geometry focus, the analyzing transformations, and what that means is the translations, reflections, rotations, as well as lines of symmetry. And then finally, the numbers and operations, focusing on calculations and estimations, just continuously strengthening and practicing those skills in students' daily work, particularly as it relates to problem solving. We are once again this year going to administer the 4 sites in math. We are going to administer them at the end of September, the beginning of December, and late February. And these are on your elementary assessment calendar, so you can check out that calendar, which is on the intranet. Again, these assessments directly align to your anchors. And what this provides you with is you will have a core assessment each month between the 4 sites and our math benchmark assessments. This will give you a larger scale assessment where you can really hone in on those anchors, where we are strong, where we're weak, and then you can make smaller formative assessments that lead up to these bigger assessments, again, monitoring students' progress all along the way. So we will continue to give the 4 sites in math. And again, I'm bringing to the forefront this idea of daily formative assessments. We know that the more students struggle, the more we need to assess. It's an integral part of our instruction. So please utilize the assessments that are on the intranet. There are math boxes. There are formative assessments that are aligned to some of your report card descriptors, again, which are aligned to your anchors. So utilize those assessments to be able to flexibly group your students. And they also provide you with an opportunity to make small groups and do a structure like Daily 5. Along with that, there's Study Island. And Study Island can sort of be one of your Daily 5 centers that you utilize. Now, we aren't going to do the Study Island quizzes like we had done last year. I'm leaving that up to you to develop quizzes and to develop Study Island activities that meet the needs of your students based on these formative assessments. However, I'm going to be asking your principals to be checking progress to make sure that you are utilizing Study Island. After all, we pay for it. It's a great resource, so let's use it. And that's it. So the Grade 5 Math Implementation Plan was sent to you electronically. I will also post it in your Grade 5 Math folder. If you have any questions, please let me know. And finally, thank you for all of your work. I know that you work hard to ensure that your students achieve at the highest levels possible, and it's great to see that your work is paying off. So thank you, and I hope you have a great year.